Hey, NFL and Falcons fans, welcome to another episode of NFL Jocks and Pigskins with Tom Pollen. I'm Dave Holcomb, Chris Smitherman behind the scenes producing the show. Our last one before the NFL draft. It's finally here. Feels like it's taken forever.
Yeah, I know. It's getting drafty in here. Very drafty in Chicago, I'll tell you that much for sure.
So, it's always drafty in Chicago.
Yeah, it's going to be draftier as the week goes on. So right. It's just, full force, we'll be ready for it Thursday. I'm ready for this to get going. We'll be into the third day on Saturday. So, I'm ready for that.
Yeah, a lot's going to happen between now and our next show. So we're going to prep you for what the Falcons might do at number 4. We're going to take our final guesses. We've discussed that a lot this late winter and spring, but we'll kind of give you our last minute guesses at where the Falcons will go with that number 4 pick. The big trade yesterday between the Kansas City Chiefs and Baltimore Ravens. We're going to break down how that works for both teams, both the ramifications for both the Kansas City and Baltimore. And then if there's some time later in the show, I think you wanted to get to some Peter King things that he wrote in his article over the last week.
Yeah, there was some interesting tidbits. One I'll get into when we talk about the Chiefs and Baltimore Ravens trade, but just a few things that are interesting. You get, you start reading around NFL.com, Pro Football Talk, and Peter King is a must-read on Monday morning. So you can pick up some interesting kind of behind-the-scenes things. Just reading around the sites a little bit during the week.
Chicago. Tom coming from Chicago today, as always. I'm coming from Marietta, and if you hear any hammering in the background, that is the contractor putting in our lights in our new basement. So I apologize for any noise you might hear. Is it noisy, Tom?
A little bit. Well,
okay. All right. But let's get to it. The Falcons have the number 4 pick. We know that. We've discussed kind of forwards and backwards what they could do. They could take a quarterback, really move on from Matt Ryan, at least beginning to move on from Matt Ryan. Ryan's going to be the starting quarterback this fall, but taking a different quarterback would begin the transition to the post-Matt Ryan era. They could take somebody else at number 4, like an offensive lineman, like Kyle Pitts, or they could try and trade back and acquire more picks and maybe still get a very quality offensive lineman or maybe even Kyle Pitts later on in the draft. So there is a lot that can happen with the Falcons and their draft strategy. What do you see happening here? I mean, is there anything new that we haven't discussed that could happen?
Really, no. I think we've discussed just about every scenario over the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
One thing that gets me, I've been thinking about this week, is it seems like all the draft experts have the 49ers taking Mac Jones. And because all draft experts are saying the 49ers are going to take Mac Jones, I'm predicting that the 49ers will take Justin Fields. But that's the thing. If Fields were available, I would be very – it seems to me like that pick really goes up for grabs at number 4 because I don't see why the Falcons wouldn't want Fields. And teams like the Bears, the Patriots, the Broncos, the football team, that's still odd, are going to want to try and trade up for Fields. I really don't think Fields is going to be there. And because it's amazing how draft rumors get around. Somebody hears a rumor that doesn't have much credence to it, and they'll start spreading around. And a rumor gathers steam as it goes around.
You're talking about Mac Jones.
I'm talking about Mac Jones, yeah. So, and from the scouting reports I've been seeing, Jones is he's a prospect. He could be a good quarterback, but he's not the same kind of this getting graded out the same as somebody like Fields. And that's if you Lawrence we know is going to go first, but that's if you concede that Zach Wilson is going to go second.
I mean, I think we haven't discussed that in a while, several weeks now, because I think it's just become a foregone conclusion that that's what's going to happen. Wilson to the Jets at 2.
Yeah, that's what everybody seems to be saying. As I say, it wouldn't surprise me. He seems to be consensus the second best quarterback available. Then you have the questions between Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and Mac Jones.
Yeah.
And I think Fields is the best quarterback out of that group. So if Fields is gone, as I've been thinking about it, I don't think they're going to take an offensive lineman. It's just not a sexy pick. Not a pick that, Fontenot and Smith are going to want to make in the first round in their first draft. They're going to want somebody who's going to be a big impact player. And I think if Fields is not there, I think they take Pitts. So that I'm calling that right now. It's Kyle Pitts is the number 1 pick.
We want to know from our listeners, who do you think the Falcons will take at number 4? Send us a comment. We'll read it on the show. You can also tweet at us at TJ Pollen, at DM Holcomb, or our Twitter handles. Maybe I should have said it first because I gave you first dibs at the pick, and now I'm going to be copying you. But I was preparing to say Kyle Pitts as well. Later this week, I wrote an article about Kyle Pitts for Southern Pigskin, so I took a deeper dive into his talent and into the immediate impact he can make for any team, really.
Right.
But definitely in Atlanta with a quarterback like Matt Ryan and other receivers that defenses have to worry about, and Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. So, I think our guest a couple weeks ago mentioned this. Atlanta, for all of their weapons on offense, they were not a good red zone team.
No, they weren't.
26th in red zone and touchdown percentage, scoring touchdowns on their red zone possessions last season. So Kyle Pitts is somebody that would help that.
Tight end makes a huge difference in the red zone.
Yeah.
When you have a good one, it's a big weapon to have when you're inside the 20. So yeah, Kyle Pitts definitely improved those numbers.
Yeah. So I still like trading back, but I guess I'm kind of ruling out trading back at this point because it hasn't happened yet. A lot of other trades have gone down, maybe not a lot of others, but quite a few others.
Yeah.
Draft trades have already happened. So to me, if the Falcons were going to trade out, it probably would have happened already. But we'll see. I mean, trades happen all the time on draft night, and that's still a possibility. And I still think that's a good idea to trade back and try to get more picks. Pitts could fall to 7 or 8. It's possible. It's not
possible.
Frankly,
not probable.
We'll see. I mean, if somebody trades up with Atlanta to 4, they're not trading up for Pitts. They're trading up for a quarterback.
Well, that's true. But so then, again, if Fields is there, I think they're trading up for a quarterback. If Fields isn't there, I don't think there's a trade up. I don't think the Falcons have a chance to trade back. Always remember, you have to have somebody who wants to be up in that position.
Right.
And that becomes a lot more difficult if Fields isn't there.
I agree. Absolutely. This is, under the assumption that Jones goes 3 to San Francisco. And I should mention there was a rumor that came out, a report, if maybe depending on who you ask, from Woody Page in Denver that the Broncos were inquiring about the Falcons' number 4 pick. And that came out, I think, just shortly after our show last week, because we didn't get to talk about this, but it came out on Saturday last week. And but a couple of days later, it was refuted by somebody else that has not happened, that Denver has not inquired about the number 4 pick. So that just right there summarizes the draft process, that nobody really knows anything. Yeah. But let's assume that Denver does trade up for number 4 for Justin Fields, because Mac Jones goes number 3. Cincinnati, we'll say they go Penei Sewell at number 5. Yeah. Miami, correct me if I'm wrong, they have the number 6 pick. They could take Kyle Pitts for sure.
If Pitts is there, I think Miami will take him. If not, I think they'll take one of the wide receivers that are available.
Yeah, I agree. So they could take one of the wide receivers, and then you go to 7. Remind me who has the 7th pick. It's Carolina has 8.
Detroit Lions have the 7th pick.
Detroit has.
So they're looking for an ankle biter. So
yeah, okay. So
that coach, he is never going to get over that quote.
You're right, he's not.
Why don't them the ankles?
Let's say Kyle Pitts gets past Cincinnati or Miami. Sorry, let's say he gets past Miami at 6. He's not going to go to Detroit at 7.
No, because they have T.J. Hockenson.
So could he go to Carolina at 8?
I definitely could go to Carolina at 8 and, give Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's going to have, with DJ Moore and Anderson, is going to have his best chance to show what he can do at quarterback. Now, I've been hearing some rumors, and again, that the Carolina Panthers might take a quarterback there and flip Darnold. I don't think that makes much sense. But
yeah, as
long as we're entertaining these kind of rumors right now, it's fun to do. We might as well bring it up.
So who would they? Are they in the business for Trey Lance then at 8?
Yeah, it would be kind of like Trey Lance or Mac Jones if he's still available.
Yeah,
at 8. And then, although I hear Darnold's been working out with his wide receiver group, so we'll see, how well that goes. But you always hear that kind of stuff in the spring. So
right, yeah. But to my point, then if the Falcons trade with Denver, they swap first-round picks, then Atlanta would pick 9. And we did lay out a scenario just now. Maybe it's not likely. It's not likely. I'll definitely say it's not likely. But there is a scenario where Pitts actually would fall to Atlanta at number 9.
Yeah, it's possible. There is a possibility. I don't see it because Pitts is just, such a. He's considered by everybody most everybody you read to be the second best prospect in the draft behind Lawrence.
Yeah.
So, and the top non-quarterback in the draft.
Right.
So
it's just that he plays a position that we talked about it last week. I mean, somebody hasn't gone 6th, as high as 6th at his position in 15 years.
Right. Yeah, that's true. But he's also a different kind of talent.
It's true.
He does have wide receiver skills.
That's true.
That you don't normally see out of a tight end.
Yeah.
It's not often you get a U tight end that can do everything that Pitts is capable of doing, and he has the size and strength of a tight end and the skills of a receiver.
Right.
So it's you're getting into kind of territory where we haven't been here before, so it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah. There's been a tight end revolution for a while, I'd say, but Kyle Pitts is going to add to that revolution or be a whole new revolution in terms of what he can do, or easy way to put it is just he's a generational talent, and he may reset what we consider tight ends, how important they are in the NFL and in the drafts. Pantera 1959 says, who are the other people that you heard, talking heads or actual team personnel? Other people in terms of what we're hearing with mock drafts, or is that what you think he's asking, Tom?
Other people, it's hard to say. Maybe mock drafts. Who's coming up on? Who's kind of showing up? Maybe an overall evaluation of players, and I'll tell you right now, if you really want to get a good look at the top prospects, go to NFL.com. Yes, on trade offers. Okay.
Oh, okay.
NFL.com does have a very good listing. If you go to Bucky Brooks, who I trust thoroughly as one of the best analysts on the NFL.com site, he does a very good job of listing the players by position as far as 1 through 5 that he thinks are the best in this draft. So I would recommend, if you're looking for overall player evaluation, go to Bucky Brooks. He's very good. As far as other trades, as I say, the Patriots have a lot of draft capital. And I think the Patriots could make the best, probably the best, the most advantageous trade for the Falcons. Yes, and they might trade down or get Kyle. Yeah, but again, you got to find somebody who's willing to trade up. And if Josh Fields isn't there, I'm not so sure that you're going to find a team willing to trade up. Fields he seems to be a talent that everybody is evaluating as everybody's evaluating him as an NFL talent. I think the one thing that stops everybody, which is kind of ridiculous, is everybody looks at him as an Ohio State quarterback and says, well, Ohio State quarterbacks never do anything in the pros. But, come on. You can't hold that against Justin Fields.
You could very easily say the same about Alabama. And maybe it's just Alabama quarterbacks haven't gone as high lately in the first round, so we don't have that disappointment with Alabama quarterbacks.
Right.
But it's been a while, and the book's still out on Tua, but Tua hasn't proved that he is the franchise quarterback yet. So not counting him, it's been 40 years since we had a good Alabama quarterback in the NFL.
But, I'll say if the Falcons want to get depth in this draft, one of the things that really impresses me about this draft is I think it's very deep. If you're looking, other than your top prospects who, go 1 through 5, if you're looking to fill positions like tackle or wide receiver, even other tight ends besides Pitts, I think you can get those in later rounds. I don't think you necessarily have to be in the top 5 to get a transition, to get a Pro Bowl caliber player, to get a starter, somebody who's going to be on the field 16 weeks a season or 17 weeks a season now. We gotta change our thinking on that. But you can find effective players. You're going to find starters, I think, as deep as round 4. So don't be disappointed if we don't get the exact player you expect. That's why I say if you get the Patriots I think have 4 6th-round picks, and they have multiple picks in other rounds. So I think you can get a deal with the Patriots that could bring a nice package that'll enable the Falcons to get depth. Yeah.
Stephen B says, many draft observers all calling Pitts the best tight end prospect they've ever seen. What if they trade back and end up with an average mid-first rounder?
Well, as I say, I think you can go to different positions and still find top quality. On defense, cornerback, Surtain is going to be there. You're still going to have some quality offensive linemen there if you're looking to protect Matt Ryan better. Mm-hmm. But as I say, trading back is difficult. Because I think if Fields is gone, I think most teams are going to wait and kind of take that second tier of quarterbacks that are going to be available, like Trask or Kellen Mond or quarterbacks like that, who aren't necessarily, considered at the top of the, top of their position, but still
first round pick. They're not first round.
But still bring value to an NFL team. So, Fields is a difference maker. I think the rest of them fit well if they can find a system that works for them.
Let's pull back a little bit with our conversation, because I think a lot of you're making great points, Tom. But I think a lot of what you're saying is you're assuming that Mac Jones doesn't go number 3, which a lot of people are saying is going to happen. But you're assuming, you're not buying into the Mac Jones hype, and you think Justin Fields is going to be gone by number 3.
I think he should be. That's the thing, and that's what we get into about rumors. Once a rumor starts going around once or twice, they pick up their own steam. They pick up momentum. And all of a sudden, everybody, Kyle Shanahan hasn't said a word about which quarterback he wants. However, everybody has told Kyle Shanahan which quarterback he wants. So that's why all this talk about Mac Jones is going around. But,
right.
That wouldn't surprise me to see Fields go 3. If Fields is there for the Falcons, then you really have to. I've seen some draft experts call it the pivotal point in the draft. It's where this draft is going to turn.
Number 3.
Yeah, the number 4 pick, actually.
Oh,
the Falcons pick is the pivotal pick in the draft.
That's true. Yeah.
Depending on how the Falcons use it. As I say, if Fields isn't there, I don't think teams are as willing to trade up. I think teams are more likely to stay back and take one of the other picks. I mean, Kyle Trask is an attractive pick. He's not getting a lot of talk, but he did beat Bama in the SEC title game last year. So, there are skills there, and it's very likely that a team is going to stay where they are and take a chance with some of these other quarterbacks. So, and I don't think you're trading up for Pitts. So I think if nobody else is there, Fontenot and Smith are going to want to make the big move. Pitts will work very well in Fontenot's system, Smith's system. So, and he's going to be a difference maker. This is a potential all-pro tight end. So, if you want to make a big splash with the first pick, is
hey, man,
Mike, great to hear from you. If you really want to make a splash with that number 1 pick, and Fields is not there for you, then you're going to take Pitts.
I agree. I think that if they stay number 4, Pitts is the pick. And not a quarterback. And that really seems to be what they're between. They could take Penny Sewell, but I think your point about wanting to make a splash with this regime's first pick is well warranted. And they took 2 offensive linemen. It was a different general manager, but 2 offensive linemen were taken just 2 years ago in the first round. So I think they want to address a different need. And get the second best player in the draft, as we've been saying with Kyle Pitts. Right. I'm a little bit more willing to say that the likelihood the Falcons can trade back is, I think it's higher than what you're saying. I think the chances of it happening are higher than what you're saying, and that's because I believe that I believe the hype with Jones to the 49ers, and that's not necessarily because I think Jones is better than Fields. I don't. From what I've read, Jones is best suited as a low-tier starter in the league. That does not scream number 3 pick. But I think I just think their rumors have been going around so long that I think there's at least something to them. They're at least considering taking Jones at number 3.
Okay.
Steve says the risk of taking a QB at 4 should not be overlooked. If Falcons were to take the next Mariota, ouch. Well, I mean, there's always that risk.
Yes.
And I mean, unless you have Trevor Lawrence and you're picking 1, or you get to pick Andrew Luck. I mean, there's even risks when you have number 1. Jameis Winston didn't work out.
Right.
Jared Goff is not on the Rams anymore. So there is always risk with any of these picks. And Stephen B., your point is well taken. I like draft picks that have the least amount of risk. And that's kind of why I thought about it over the last week. And that's why I think Kyle Pitts is ultimately going to be the selection at number 4. I agree with you that the quarterback is risky. It's always risky. But when you're taking the 4th best quarterback in a draft, that's extra risky.
That's extra risky, right. Now you're really starting to get into questionable area. You're getting to a point where you're looking at the weaknesses as well as the strengths. What can he do against how is he against pressure? How fast does he get rid of the ball? How fast does he make decisions? That's where you start getting into that questionable area.
Mm-hmm.
I was mentioning Football Morning in America, Peter King, and he had a very interesting breakdown on quarterbacks. And let me see if I can find it here. Okay, average draft position for quarterbacks. And he broke it down from 1980 to 2000 and from 2001 to 2020 last season.
Okay.
And the average draft slot of the first quarterback picked in the draft from 1980 to 2000 was basically 13.9.
Wow. Wait, the first quarterback. The average.
The first quarterback, yeah. Average draft slot of first quarterback picked in drafts from 2001 to 2020, 2.1.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. He said last 20 drafts, the first quarterback was picked with the number 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 1, 1. So it's amazing how draft philosophy has changed in 20 years from the prior 20 years.
Yeah, I think the trivia question I had weeks ago now, where I was trying to have you guess the last time quarterbacks went 1, 2, 3 in the draft. It's been more than 20 years. 1999 was the last time that happened.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen again. And we could, for the first time, if the Falcons trade out of 4, or if the Falcons surprise me and they take a quarterback, then for the first time ever, we'll have quarterbacks 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
Matt Sports says Arthur Smith is in a prove-it stage in his career. He hasn't proven anything outside of Tennessee. He's more likely to keep proven players to solidify his reputation as a good play caller.
That's possible. Again, you can still live with Matt Ryan as your quarterback. You're not dropping in quality with Matt Ryan at your quarterback. I said it before and I'll say it again. He's a future he's a Hall of Famer. 5 years after he retires, he's going into the Hall of Fame. So, he's going to be 36. You could still live with him for another couple of years and take Pitts, and all of a sudden you have a passing game. And I think even more important than Pitts is the fact that you can have Javonte Williams might be available in the second round. And I know Najee Harris and Travis Etienne are getting a lot more hype than Javonte Williams. I think Javonte Williams is a top running back in this draft. And I think the Falcons can get him with the second pick. Now you got Pitts and Javonte Williams, and now you really have made a marked improvement on that offense. And you've given Arthur Smith weapons that he has shown he can use showed he could use in Tennessee's offense, and he's going to have that same opportunity to tune up Atlanta's offense the same way.
I think I'll share my take, and I think I'm going to end up. I'm going to say what Matt Mike said, but a little bit differently.
Okay.
I've always believed that the hire of Arthur Smith was a way to rebuild this offense and the team on the fly. You know, the hire of Smith to me was an indication that they were going to stick with Matt Ryan and try to acquire a running game like Tennessee had and win with Ryan. That's why the quarterback pick doesn't really make sense with the hire of Smith. This isn't it didn't scream to me like we're coming in and blowing everything up with the hire of Smith.
I agree.
It said more of we're going to take the pieces that we have and build around that, build it quickly so that we give Matt Ryan a chance to try and win a Super Bowl preferably, but get back to the playoffs.
And of course, behind you, we're hearing the building. So, people you're kind of emphasizing that the Falcons are building for this year. So,
Arthur Smith is actually in my basement, and he's already started building here in Atlanta. Yep.
He started building the Falcons for 2021. I'm great at that. One of the things that I've been seeing as I've been reading around the league is that there seems to be a feel that Arthur Blank likes the quarterbacks that are going to be available. Okay. However, he's also willing to step back and let his front guys make this pick. This is their pick. As I've always say, the farther away the owner is from the draft room, the better. Let him make coffee if he wants to be a part of the draft room. Owners don't belong in the draft room, and Jerry Jones has proven that. So, so I say that even though Arthur Blank might want a quarterback, might think that a quarterback is more desirable in the first round, I still think that Fontenot and Smith are going to go with Pitts in the first round. He's going to be that impact player.
I would think that Arthur Blank would also like Kyle Pitts because it's going to be a fan-appeasing pick. It's going to help more fans once they're allowed back in the stadium. It's going to bring more fans. It's going to sell jerseys. You're not going to sell a jersey for Penny Sewell, or at least not as many as Kyle Pitts.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Or George Steinbrenner. I mean, either one. So I get that. If this were baseball, Ray Kroc would be yelling at me. I always go back again. Jim Finks, who was general manager of the Bears when I was in my formative years, back in my misspent youth, always said a few things. One, you build from the inside out. And when he first got there, Ed McCaskey, who's the husband of Virginia McCaskey, he's passed since then, asked Jim Finks what he could do to help out, with the Bears in the clubhouse or wherever. And Finks told him, make coffee. Owner's own, general managers, coaches coach, and that's the way it goes. Stay out of it. Make coffee in the locker room if you want to. Make coffee in the coach's room, but stay out of the decision-making process. So, and that's why I have never been a fan of Jerry Jones being in the front office, Snyder and Washington being involved. I'm not a fan of owners being involved in their team's player personnel selection.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. I definitely think that owners should own, general managers, general manage, and coaches coach, players play. It hasn't always worked out that way in Atlanta, though. And
no.
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much today, but Arthur Blank had a say in the picking up the reference that I had a few minutes ago, taking the two offensive linemen early in the draft. I think based on the quotes that we heard from Arthur Blank before that draft, that was Arthur Blank picking.
I agree with you, right? Because I remember we were writing for Falcons Maven.
Yeah.
And,
yes,
fully agree with you. That was Arthur Blank making those two offensive line picks.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I like Chris Lindstrom a lot, and Caleb McGarry isn't a bad player. He's not a bust, but and I don't remember, what else the Falcons could have had instead of McGarry. Obviously, maybe a defensive player to help that defense, but I get my point is that I agree with you, but ultimately it's screaming against a wall if you're going to try and tell the Cowboys like that's not how you should run your team, because that's the way they're going to run their team. Jerry Jones is going to be involved, and in Atlanta, Arthur Blank is going to be involved in some form or fashion as well. I was covering the team in person at the stadium when they went 1-7, and every reporter surrounded Arthur Blank and was asking him questions about Dan Quinn's job. They didn't surround Thomas Dimitroff. Thomas Dimitroff wasn't making the decision, apparently. Everybody was surrounding and asking questions to Arthur Blank because the buck stops with him in Atlanta.
Yeah, reporters know what's going on in the locker room. If you want to get a feel for a team, look where the reporters are going. Look what they're asking. Don't underestimate how much reporters know about what they're doing. They know a lot about what they're doing, and they understand where the decisions are coming from. And at that point, they knew that it was Arthur Blank who was the man to be talking to about it.
So I think Blank will. I think he's always going to have a hand in what the Falcons do. I guess is my point that I'm going to make, that he's hired people to make those decisions ultimately, and I do think that he's going to let them do what they want to a certain extent. But if he has a real strong opinion, he is going to. I don't want to use the word interfere. He could be interfering, but he's going to interject himself into decision making that the Falcons ultimately make. The decisions ultimately make.
I don't think he will this year. I think he's really looking to step back and let his new general manager, his new coach establish themselves. And I think maybe the only reason he got involved as much as he did in the final couple of years of the Dimitroff administration was that, he saw the team falling apart. Mm-hmm. He saw things starting to come apart, and it wasn't, obviously it wasn't working. And I think he was very frustrated, and he started getting more involved.
I just laugh because if he saw it wasn't working, why do you keep Dan Quinn for the 2020 season?
Yeah.
he should have saw that it wasn't working, and rather than make a few decisions here and there, he should have fired Dan Quinn. But that's another reason why owners should not be involved in these kind of processes. Well, Mike says, I disagree to a degree. Owners should have a say in personnel. It's his team. I'm sorry, but it's me. I'm getting what I want. However, demanding is another issue. And I do think that's basically how Arthur Blank runs things, that when he feels like he has a strong opinion about something, he does come in and he says, this is my team. This is the way I want it to be done. But normally he hires people and he lets those people do their jobs.
Which is the way I think it should be.
Yeah.
So, man, Mike, we normally agree on a lot of stuff, but that one, I'm not going with. You hire people to do these jobs. Stay away, as I say. Make coffee. Make sure that there are plenty of sugar, half and half in the refrigerator. Order a few lunches. Get a few. Make sure the press room is filled with plenty of good food. Because our man Dave definitely has to have a nice spread when he goes to the games and covers the games as a reporter. But let's go that route.
All right. Well, there was a big trade yesterday between the Kansas City Chiefs and Baltimore Ravens. Let's get to that here in the final 20 minutes.
Zozo at the 39-minute mark.
Wow, that's a late appearance.
That's a late appearance by Zozo. Yes.
Yeah.
So
she wants to talk this. She wants to talk this trade.
Yeah. She showed up for the trade. So and there she goes. I think she wants to take a nap. So, cats. What can you do?
So Kansas City must have rewatched the Super Bowl, 3, 4, 5 times and saw how badly their offensive line performed, because they had made it their top priority to fix the offensive line and make Patrick Mahomes happy. I guess you can't make him any more happy with the weapons he has. So how do you make him more happy? You give him better protection. And,
you have to, because you saw what the Buccaneers did to him.
Right.
With just a basic 4 or 5 man rush.
Mm-hmm.
And Mahomes was running for his life. So, you saw it, the result of not having of his tackles being injured going into the Super Bowl last year.
So Kansas City trades for Ravens offensive tackle Orlando Brown. They also got a 2021 second-round pick from the Ravens and a sixth-round pick next year. And in return, the Ravens got 4 selections, including this year's first-round pick, the number 31 overall pick, a third-round pick, fourth-round pick, and a fifth-round pick next season. So a pretty big deal. If you want to say that, the 2 picks the Chiefs got were for the 3 lower picks that they gave back to the Ravens, and if you break the trade down that way, the Chiefs are basically getting Orlando Brown for their first overall pick.
Yeah. And that's not a bad thing. You get a proven NFL talent, a guy who's done it, a guy who's made the Pro Bowl doing it for your first round pick. And what else could you want? And I know there are, people have arguments against it. I'll bring you back, way before your time, Dave. George Allen, former coach of the Washington Redskins, led them to the 1972 Super Bowl.
Yeah, I know him.
His philosophy was that he never met a draft pick he couldn't trade. So,
were they called the Old Man Gang? Or
yes, right. They were.
Okay.
But basically he wanted to use his draft picks on players who he knew were going to perform at the pro level. Instead of this boomer bust proposition that you normally get. He wanted to get that guy, and that's kind of what Reed did here in getting, in making the trade. They cut Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher, and picked up Orlando Brown. Now Brown does not have a contract extension in place. They made this trade without a contract extension, and Brown's going to want big money.
Right.
However, they could lock him in as a franchise tag next year if they need to. I mean, you're not just getting him for 1 year. This isn't a rental lineman.
So their assumption they're going to have him long term.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't make that kind of trade without knowing that at some point you're going to be able to work something out with him.
Yeah.
And Eric Fisher is actually looking for a job, so you never know where he's going to end up.
I wanted to, piggy off your point about getting a proven player for your first round pick. And as fans, you always use the word scouts on Twitter, Twitter scouts. We're obsessed with these draft picks, and there are teams that just kind of tank and maybe not tank, but they trade away their players for draft picks and acquiring these picks. And it seems to be working okay, or at least pretty well for the Dolphins. But, I mean, look, the Raiders had 3 first-round picks from that Khalil Mack trade, and they got some good players, but they still haven't gotten to the playoffs yet since getting all of that draft capital. Yeah. So it doesn't always work out, and a lot of it, you're going to hit and miss on picks all the time. You're not going to hit every single one. And I guess part of the strategy with acquiring as many picks as you can is your percentage of hitting goes up, or in the sense of you're going to get more. The more players you draft, the more quality players you're going to get if you're hitting on the same percentage. That's the argument for getting more picks. But if you have that opportunity to give up a pick and get a quality, already proven starter that's going to be on your team for a long time, you do that 100% of the time.
Absolutely. Make that run. Yeah.
But there are people, I think, on that I've seen on Twitter that I don't know if they've necessarily made the argument with this trade, but the Minka Fitzpatrick trade with the Steelers, people were up in arms about Steelers giving up a number 1 pick for him. And I guess part of it was at the time, the Steelers were 0-3 or 0-2. So people thought Steelers were going to have the number 1 pick and it was going to be Minka Fitzpatrick, which was silly that the Steelers would have the number 1 pick. They even their bad years, they go 8-8. So they weren't going to have a top 5 pick.
Right.
And the Chiefs know already in this trade, they know where that pick is at 31. It's almost a 2nd round pick, and you're getting a proven starter. I don't think it's a great trade for the Ravens. I know that you're getting a 1st round pick and you're getting some other picks as well, but you're giving up protection for Lamar Jackson. And I think the Ravens are just hoping that he can continue to run around and make people miss. Is that a way to look at this deal for them, or are they going to be able to replace him with the pick that they select? And maybe they weren't going to sign him anyway, so they got something for him.
Well, I think the main issue behind this was salary cap moves, and you're seeing this, all around the league as these salary cap moves because of the way the cap has taken a huge hit this year. The main thing is that I think a lot of teams are looking for the future as far as cap, because a lot of money is coming into the NFL in the next few years.
Yeah.
And it's really going to make an impact. The cap's going to go up. You're going to be able to afford Orlando Brown against the cap in a couple of years the way you couldn't this year. So
what's the argument for the Ravens trading him? If
they couldn't fit him under the cap.
But if the cap's going to go up next year, he's already under the cap. I mean, he's already on the team for 2021.
Dave, you what are you doing to me here?
I'm sorry. You can say that it's not a great deal for the Ravens. I saw a tweet from the Ravens reporter at ESPN, Jameson Hensley, I think is his name. He basically implied that their plan is to replace Orlando Brown with Alejandro Villanueva. And
I saw that. Yes, I saw that.
And there's not going to be that much of a drop-off. I'll tell you right now, as a Steeler fan, there's going to be a drop-off.
Yes. Yeah, there'll be a drop-off.
Orlando Brown has made the Pro Bowl the last 2 years. They switched him from right tackle to left tackle in 2020, and he still made the Pro Bowl at left tackle.
Yes.
I know Alejandro Villanueva's made some Pro Bowls, but Pro Bowl is based on fan voting. And Villanueva has a huge following by people that are veterans and in the Army, and a lot of NFL fans that are against the kneeling during the national anthem, because I believe Alejandro Villanueva spoke out against that. So he's got a big fan following, which is why he's made Pro Bowls. It hasn't necessarily been because of his play.
Okay, that's fair. I really can't make that evaluation myself, and I'm sorry to say. I haven't watched enough of him. I haven't gone to all 22 like all the draft experts on Twitter do, is go to the all 22. And boy, I'm telling you, people, so many draft experts have emerged once the NFL made all 22 tape available to everybody. It's like all of a sudden everybody's a scout. I can't tell you that Villanueva is going to be the right guy. If the Ravens think he is, granted. I think they're giving up too good of a player. They're giving up a guy who could play left tackle, who Mahomes is going to love. If Mahomes doesn't take him out for dinner in the first week he's in Kansas City, he's not doing it right.
Right.
So, but it's interesting the way some of these draft moves are being made, and a lot of draft moves are being made with future picks. And again, I'm going to go back to Peter King's column last week. He talked to Gil Brandt, and if you people don't know who Gil Brandt is, he's kind of the guy who invented the draft room, invented the modern grading of players. He's the guy who turned the draft around for the Cowboys. That's why the Cowboys spent the 70s and early 80s as the great team they were, because of Gil Brandt. And he said about this draft, this one ranks first in terms of how unusual it is. The opt-outs kind of remind me when we used to draft guys and lose them for a year or two in the military. Very seldom did they come back, the players they were. The same principle is involved here. What Brandt is basically saying is he would rather, teams are getting to the point where they would rather have picks in future drafts where they can make their normal evaluations and make evaluations of players coming off that season, instead of trying to evaluate players who haven't played in 52 weeks. We haven't played in over a year and a half. And that might be the impetus behind some of these trades, is that some of these teams don't want to make this first round pick between players who opted out of the 2020 season. And I hadn't thought about that until I saw Gil Brandt say it, and all of a sudden it makes a lot of sense to me.
So it's an even better trade from Kansas City's perspective.
Yes. Yeah.
And an even worse trade from Baltimore.
Even worse trade for Baltimore, because they're going to have to make their evaluations. They got players, you got players up and down the first round who are being projected who opted out of the 2020 season. I'm going to be interesting to see how that affects their play during training camp and going into the season.
To push back on Gil Brandt's point just a little bit, can we compare going into the military and going through the vigors of basic training and sorry for my ignorance, but all of the rigors that come with being in the Army that I have no idea about? Can we really compare that to sitting on the couch and kind of staying away from the locker room and people during COVID? Is that apples to apples in your mind?
Well, the thing is, you're not training with a football team. You're not getting football reps. You're not playing football at top speed. Mm-hmm. And granted, there's a different speed between college and pro, but you're not working out as intensely. You don't have other guys in the weight room to push you. You're not doing that extra rep just because you want to impress, the guy who's behind you on the depth chart. It makes a difference, working out by yourself, then working out with a team, working out with the team concept, and playing football against players who are at your level of performance.
So being away from the team is being away from the team, no matter what it is.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I see your point. I did want to hammer home again. I mean, what the Chiefs have done for their offensive line this offseason, in addition to Brown, they signed Joe Thuney, the multi-time Pro Bowler guard from the New England Patriots, and Kyle Long, somebody that I think you maybe have evaluated, unlike Villanueva. Long is going to be on the Kansas City Chiefs as well.
Yeah, I love Kyle Long. And if he's healthy, he's going to be a heck of a pickup. When he was healthy, he was one of the best guards in the league. And the problem is too many injuries cropped up. He couldn't get healthy. He never could get back to full strength. And that hurt his game for a couple of years. If he's healthy, if he's coming back, if he says, I'm ready, he's ready. And watch out for Kyle Long.
Well, he's been away from the team as well, not because of a COVID opt-out, but he retired before the 2020 season, but he's back. Maybe COVID played a role in his retirement.
COVID didn't play a role in his retirement. He had an ankle injury that just would not heal. And no matter how much treatment he got, no matter how much he stayed off of it, it wouldn't heal. And then he picked up some other minor nagging injuries. And he just wasn't able to be the player on the field that he wanted to be.
Yeah. Well, he sounds like somebody that would benefit from the rest then. And
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I mean, Kansas City didn't have a bad offensive line at the beginning of last season, but by the Super Bowl, it was banged up. Now, looking at what it is between, what it is now versus what it was that Super Bowl game, huge improvement. And I can't say enough about Kansas City. You got to love the teams identifying their weakness and being able to, or being willing to give up whatever and move things around, do whatever necessary to address that need and get better. And that's exactly what Kansas City identified their weakness, and they are much better in that area. It could be a strength for them this season.
Yeah, which is why Andy Reid is in the position he's in, why he's the great coach that he is, why Bill Belichick has had some would say it was all Brady, but Belichick always knew when to cut the guy loose, get a draft pick for players. He was great at, sometimes, and fans fall in love with players, and they'll get upset if you trade somebody that has been a longtime fan favorite. Belichick never worried about that.
No, yeah.
So Mike Tomlin, Pittsburgh has 3 head coaches in 50 years. He's just, it's amazing, and they've still won. And again, picking up off of something I read this past week, a bad season for the Steelers is 8-8.
Well,
that's basically it. These organizations do what they need to do. They take their picks. They're smart about it. They'll get quality players. They'll make the pick if they have to. They'll get a solid player if they need to. Mike Kirchner, KC is reloading and taking advantage of their window.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You got that. You nailed it. You're right. Because they still got their weapons on offense.
Mm-hmm.
It was the line that was the weakness. The fact that the Buccaneers did not have to use 6 or 7 man fronts and blitz from different points of the field, and were able to keep 6 and 7 men back in the secondary, made things rough for Patrick Mahomes to find his receivers. And, normally, as I said, Tyreek Hill on his crossing routes, keeping up with Tyreek Hill as he cuts across the field, it's almost impossible for a cornerback. But if you have safety help on that other side of the field when Tyreek Hill arrives, now you got a problem. You don't have a receiver for Mahomes to throw the ball to. You don't have that comfort level that Mahomes has during the regular season to throw the ball. And he didn't have it in the Super Bowl.
Right.
And he still threw passes from impossible positions.
He did.
And threw them on pinpoint accuracy. I mean, it's impossible. He's the Steph Curry of football. Steph Curry throws up shots from all over the court that should have no business being anywhere near the basket. And Mahomes, he was almost horizontal, laid out, and he threw one that was pinpoint. It's just amazing. As I say, the human cheat code. The guy just shouldn't be allowed in football. You should, it's unfair to the 31 other teams that Pat Mahomes is on the field.
And crazy that we saw such a great discrepancy between Hill having a lot of success against Tampa and then struggling to get open against Tampa. And it was all about what you're talking about, the 4 or 5 man rush that they got to Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Could not get to Mahomes when they played in the regular season, and Tyreek goes for over 200 yards in the first quarter.
Yes. So they fixed that. That's not the case anymore. The Chiefs have fixed that. They've gone out. They've done what they needed to do to go out and build that line back up and make sure that Mahomes has the protection he needs to find his talent out in receivers and running backs. And Chiefs are going to be dangerous next year if this team stays healthy because of what they've been able to do.
Well, thanks for tuning in again this Saturday. We're about out of time. NFL draft coming up on Thursday with the first round. We're not exactly sure what type of broadcast we're going to do, but I believe Tom and I, and hopefully Chris as well, will be here on Thursday night to do some kind of draft special, at least during when the Falcons make their pick. So we hope that you enjoy the draft, first of all, but we also hope that you make us a part of your draft experience. We'll be back Saturday afternoon on the East Coast, Saturday morning everywhere else next Saturday. But also watch out for that video on Atlanta Sports Unlimited Thursday night during the NFL draft. First round.
Absolutely. It's going to be a lot of fun. And having all of the fans, all you fans who interact with us on Saturdays, and having you all on and watching the draft with us. And I mean, we're going to have speculation flying back and forth. It's going to be a blast. It really is going to be fun.
Yeah, so please watch out for that video on Atlanta Sports Unlimited. But until then, have a great weekend. Follow Tom on Twitter at TJ Pollen. Follow me at DM Holcomb.